Thank you very much to today's Patreon sponsors, RS Farmer Bob and Film Swag. Their support is super appreciated. So the background of this video will be a Saradomin solo I did the other day, left-handed, so I apologize that the execution is very sloppy, but it was actually a pretty good trip. I got around 25 kills or so. Not bad. Hello everyone, my name is Andrew AJT. Thank you for joining us this week. This week I want to talk about something that has been a heated debate on the old school community about account sharing and whether or not it is allowed and whether or not it should be allowed. Now, before we get started, I know 99% of you know this already, probably even more than that, but I do not like people going around and pointing fingers about account sharing or this rule. I mean, it is just a game. There's no need to make an angry Reddit post about someone who lets someone do some skilling on their account, because if we want to start assigning blame or pointing fingers, there is so much blame to go around for this topic. You can blame probably hundreds or maybe even thousands of people who do account sharing. You could blame Jagex for not doing enough about it. You could blame content creators for doing it. Heck, even I've played a little bit on friends' accounts a very long time ago, before I felt the way I do now about account sharing. There is so much blame to go around that I think it's much better, especially in this case, just to have amnesty for everyone and to fix the problem going forward. It's not a moral question. Account sharing certainly doesn't make anyone a bad person. Account sharing itself isn't wrong or anything, at least in most contexts. It's more of a practical question, for reasons we'll see later, as to what is the best policy for the community as a whole. With that being said, I also don't want to condone any buying and selling of infernal capes, because that is clearly not allowed, and unlike other instances of account sharing, there's really no gray area with that. So Onesie will be joining me for this segment. I remember that back in the day, it was very clear that you couldn't account share. It was against the rules. You know, way back in the day, that's just what I remember. But that's just memory. That was a long time ago. So let's take a look at a primary source from the time, the official handbook of RuneScape. And let's see what it has to say. I always keep a copy with me of this at all times. This is from 2006. So let's see what they have to say. Let's get to rules of RuneScape. Rule number 6, no account sharing / trading. Each account should be used by only one person. Account sharing is not allowed. You may not sell, transfer, or lend your account to anyone else or permit anyone else to use your account, and you may not accept an account, I gotta finish the last part here. You may not accept an account that anybody else offers you. So that is very clear. But if we also want to go back a page, let's see. Do not give your password to any other player, period. That's pretty straightforward. Just as a little side note, I like how it says here, it's important and best to keep a safe distance from other RuneScape players. It's like they knew people playing this game were strange. What do you think, Onesie? So of course, account sharing isn't completely allowed now. There's many cases where it's not allowed, like for high scores or for infernal capes, but I looked at the report abuse and there's nothing about account sharing other than buying or selling an account, so I just figured the written form of this rule, like it was in the handbook, has since been deleted. But that is not the case. This rule actually does still exist on the RuneScape website. Here's the official rules of RuneScape. I assume these apply to old school as well. And if we go down to account sharing and buying or selling accounts, each account should only be used by one person. Never share your account with anyone else. Doing so will likely get the account banned. Players may not sell, share, transfer, or lend their account to anyone else. Players should not accept an account that anybody else offers, as they may be stolen, and this could lead to your own account being disabled. So that is very similar to the rule from 14 years ago. And they go on to say here that they have this rule to protect game integrity, achievements, the high scores, and also a very good point here. If disputes occur or friendships break down, it can lead to at least one of the parties permanently losing access to the account or having it stripped of wealth and items, and I have seen this happen before. That's why I sometimes advise against account sharing, because it is an account security risk. Also, some more very logical points here. Many of the accounts on sale are stolen, so that is a very good reason why you should never buy or sell an account. There's millions of good reasons to not do that. And also some other good points. The people who share accounts run the risk that one of the people using the account won't give it back, Or I didn't even think about this, that one person could break a game rule and get the account banned or muted, and then the other person's not really at fault, but they're having to suffer the consequences. I never even thought of that. Everything in this rule is excellent. These are excellent points and very true, and really this rule is designed to protect players. It's not Jagex just being annoying or nosy. They just don't want people having to fall into these unfortunate situations, and that is a very good reason to have this rule. I'll just give you an example from, this must have been 2005, and I've never told this story before. I was in the Falador East Bank, and someone was standing around as a level 83 saying, I'm giving away my account. And I'm like, holy shit, he's giving away an account. He's level 83. I must have been like level 50 or something. So he actually gave me the password. He PM'd me the password. I logged in. The account was all good. There was nothing really on it, which kind of made me think something was strange, but it was a really high level account and he just gave it to me. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I just got this really high level account for free. But I was smart. I didn't put any of my items on it because I knew that the guy might just reclaim the account. And sure enough, the next day it had been recovered or the password was changed or something. I don't remember. But I bet a lot of people in that circumstance, even today, would put some of their items on the account, and once the person reclaims it, then they would keep those items. So it's not a perfect example, but it just goes to show there are some risks associated with account sharing. So with all that being said, why today is account sharing being done and people aren't getting banned for it all the time? There just hasn't been the enforcement of it that you would expect for a rule that is so clear. And it's really hard to say why or how this happened. The only hypothesis that I've really thought of is I remember many years ago, like early days of old school RuneScape, I would see PKing videos where people were using accounts that were clearly borrowed, and I didn't think this was that great, but most people didn't seem to have a problem with it, and I guess maybe it could have been a slippery slope where that started being okay, and then maybe people started sharing accounts or letting each other onto accounts for skilling or something, and maybe just because those are not egregious examples of account sharing, slowly it became more okay over time. But I don't know for sure, that's just what I remember, and it could be totally wrong. Maybe there's some other huge reason that I'm missing. Leave a comment if you do know, but even at the time I remember thinking it's not quite as fun watching a PKing video when the person is just using a borrowed account and they didn't actually train it up themselves. I feel like it's more enjoyable to watch an account that they themselves worked on, but that's just my opinion, and again, it's not really anything egregious. If my slippery slope hypothesis is correct, then I think it's led to what we have today, where people are letting other people onto their Iron Man accounts to train for them, which goes against the spirit of Iron Man because it is a solo game mode. At least that's my interpretation of why people are upset by this. There's probably other reasons, but I've seen people asking for Iron Man statuses to be revoked because of this. I can understand those arguments, but personally I don't think it's much different whether or not the account is an Iron Man or not. So I'm certainly not the first person to inquire about this. Here's a RuneScape 3 post from 2 years ago asking about selective banning for account sharing, and I looked around for a longer Jagex statement about this, and here is one from Jagex Infinity, a former JMod, and also Steve W., a current JMod, and he basically explains here, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, I actually do recommend you pause it and read it yourself, or it'll be in the description as well, but he does mention that it's important to look at why we have rules. He basically says they are to protect players, as I mentioned, and he says it's against the rules, but we're not going to take action against casual account sharing if there's no risk to game integrity, like Inferno, quests. I'm sure high scores go along with that as well. And they kind of say it puts your account at risk and they're never going to encourage players to share their accounts. And he does say they are consistent with it, like the players using accounts to PK on, they don't have a problem with. There's a lot here, and basically my interpretation of it is it really depends on the situation. There are some situations where they would enforce the rule, and there are other situations where they would not enforce the rule, depending on what is going on with the account. This post is quite old though, it's 3 years ago, so if any JMods want to provide an updated stance on account sharing, I would be interested to hear it. It is possible they've already done this and I just couldn't find it, so if they did, just leave it in the comments and I will add it to the description and pin it in the comments. So what do I think? Well, I don't really love account sharing. I would say probably avoid it if you can because there are account security risks for it. In most cases, I don't really mind it, but in some, I don't really like it either. So it's really hard to form an opinion about this topic actually because of that. And it's also not recommended by me because you don't know exactly what jagex allows and doesn't allow as far as account sharing. It's hard to know for every single circumstance what they are okay with and what they're not, but you won't have to worry about that if you just don't account share. If they decided one day just to stop all account sharing completely and enforce the rule fully, I would be okay with that, but then again, Pandora's box is already kind of opened. People have been account sharing for a while now, so it might be hard to enforce that or even unfair to enforce that, but maybe they could do it with all the new accounts. But then again, I guess if they're going to continue the policy they have now, maybe just updating the rule and being more clear about exactly what is and isn't allowed would be the better option. Again, maybe they've already done this and I just can't find it. And the best way to do that would be to update the rule on the website to list out all those things, because maybe they've talked about it in tweets or Q&As, but it's hard to dig through all that media and find it. I did find one Q&A where they said similar things to the Reddit post, but again, it was very old. I'm not saying they've even handled this bad because it is a very difficult topic to make rules for, but I think more clarity would be the answer. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Should account sharing be more allowed? Should it be less allowed? Should the rule be enforced? Should it be rewritten to be a little more clear? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and sub if you haven't already. You can check out a video I did a while back in the end screen if you want to see more about the RuneScape handbook. It's pretty cool. You can also join my clan chat up on screen and my Discord down below. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram down below. And if you would like to support the channel even further, you can check out my Patreon page in the end screen. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week.